breaking late this afternoon. Brand new bombshell reporting from the Wall Street Journal that might explain why Donald Trump appears so anxious and, frankly, flat-footed when it comes to releasing documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal citing senior administration officials in its reporting that when Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a, quote, truckload of documents related to Epstein earlier this year, they discovered Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times. From that report, quote, in May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the official said. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. The officials said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics and that Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. Now, in response to this reporting in the Wall Street Journal, the White House has issued a statement to NBC News that reads, quote, the fact is that the president kicked him out of his club for being a creep. This is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats and the liberal media, just like the Obama-Russiagate scandal, which President Trump was right about, end quote. That is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Chait, is here. Also joining us, MSNBC senior political analyst, my colleague Alex Wagner's here, and former top official of the Department of Justice, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman is here. Because this story dropped, I want to do a little bit more of letting this sink in for any of our viewers who haven't had a chance to read through it all before I turn this over to all of you. This, importantly, from the Wall Street Journal, which I think days ago found itself on the receiving end of a lawsuit from Donald Trump because of its reporting on this elaborate birthday card and drawing. So important that it's the Journal again out ahead in this story with a new scoop. It reads, Bondi also told the president at this meeting that the Justice Department decided to not release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. Trump and Attorney General Bondi, when the Justice Department reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called this truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, they discovered Trump's name appeared multiple times, as we reported in May. They informed the president of this. The officials said it was a routine briefing. This is interesting. Quote, they also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials did not plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and victims' personal information. Trump said at the meeting he would defer to the Justice Department's decision to not release any further files. Andrew Weissman, just take us inside what this reporting is detailing and what it says to you.
Sure. So I think the main issue that people need to focus on is the schizophrenic approach of the Trump administration to this issue. On the one hand, they are saying we want to be as transparent as possible. And on the other hand, they're saying we're not releasing anything. So they, on the transparency part, they say we want to be transparent and we're going to go to court and we're going to ask judges to release grand jury transcripts. Now, they know that the law on that issue is dead set against them, so they can blame the courts when they say no. It's also in grand jury transcripts, the actual proceedings in the grand jury are the area where it's least likely that Donald Trump's name appears. By contrast, the part where they're not turning anything over is all of the voluminous investigative material, which the Wall Street Journal now is reporting, which is something that we sort of assumed had to be true, but now the reporting is it is true, which is that material has Donald Trump's name in it. And of course, shouldn't be surprising because there's so much reporting that the two of them knew each other and socialized with each other. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump committed a crime, but his reaction to this is the thing that's probably the most telling because it certainly is he protests too much. But that material, and this is sort of the take home, I think, for everyone and when I think about this, is that material, the voluminous investigative material that the Department of Justice has, that can be turned over right now, today, this minute. There is no grand jury requirement that you go to court to turn that over. So here, if the Department of Justice and the Trump administration is saying, oh, we want to be transparent, that is information that they don't need to go to the court and turn over. We just saw them do that in the Martin Luther King Jr. files, turning that over. So you really are seeing this continuation of a schizophrenic approach, and the Wall Street Journal reporting gives you certainly a motive for why they are sort of, on the one hand, saying we're going to go to court, and the other hand, saying the stuff that's most likely to name Donald Trump, we are not disclosing.
I mean, Alex, we also get a little bit of the timeline filled in. Let me read a little bit more from this new reporting in the Journal. This meeting, they write about, set the stage for the high-profile review to come to an end. Pam Bondi had said in February that Epstein's client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now to review, end quote. Trump said last week in response to a journalist's question that Bondi had not told him his name was in the files. The administration didn't publicly announce the decision until weeks later, the Journal continues, on July 7th, when the Justice Department posted a memo to its website. The statement, which was unsigned, stated that a thorough review had turned up no list of Epstein's clients, no evidence that would lead to an investigation of uncharged third parties, and no additional documents that merited public disclosure. It said that much of the material would have been sealed in a trial to protect victims and to block the dissemination of child pornography. Your thoughts about how far this reporting goes in filling in some of the blanks?
Well, I mean, I think it's enormously consequential. I think this is a huge stress test for Trump and his coalition, which...
In a stunning revelation, a major news outlet has reported that former President Donald Trump's name appears multiple times in a trove of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender. According to senior administration officials cited in the report, Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy informed Trump during a White House meeting in May 2025 that his name was mentioned in the Epstein files. The briefing, described as routine, emphasized that being named in the documents does not indicate wrongdoing, as many other high-profile figures were also referenced. However, the disclosure has raised questions about Trump's reluctance to release these documents and his administration's approach to transparency. The report details that the Justice Department reviewed what Bondi called a truckload of documents earlier this year. During the review, officials decided against releasing additional Epstein-related materials, citing the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims' personal information. Trump, informed of this decision, agreed to defer to the Justice Department's judgment. This move has drawn scrutiny, particularly given Trump's public stance on transparency. The administration has simultaneously pushed for the release of grand jury transcripts, a process experts note is unlikely to succeed due to legal constraints, while withholding voluminous investigative materials that could be disclosed without court approval. These materials, according to the report, are where Trump's name appears, fueling speculation about the administration's motives. The White House responded to the reporting with a statement denying any wrongdoing by Trump, asserting that he had expelled Epstein from his club for inappropriate behavior. The statement dismissed the story as fake news concocted by Democrats and the liberal media, comparing it to past controversies like the Russia investigation. However, the report's credibility is bolstered by its source, a reputable outlet that recently faced a lawsuit from Trump over unrelated coverage. The outlet's persistence in pursuing this story underscores its commitment to following facts, even in the face of legal pressure. Legal and political analysts have weighed in on the implications. Andrew Weissman, a former top Justice Department official, described the administration's approach as schizophrenic, noting the contradiction between its transparency rhetoric and its refusal to release investigative materials. He suggested that the decision to withhold documents could be motivated by the presence of Trump's name, though he emphasized that this does not necessarily indicate criminal activity. The report confirms long-standing public knowledge of Trump's social connections to Epstein, which adds context to the administration's cautious handling of the files. The revelation poses a significant challenge for Trump's political coalition, particularly among supporters who view him as a crusader against a so-called deep state. Figures like Stuart Rhodes, Stephen Bannon, and Michael Flynn, key Trump allies who received pardons from him, have championed this narrative. The report suggests that Trump's decision to withhold documents may be driven by self-preservation rather than a commitment to exposing elite corruption, potentially alienating a portion of his base. Political analyst Alex Wagner highlighted that this could erode support among 10 to 15% of Trump's coalition, a margin significant enough to impact future elections, including the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential race. The timing of the report adds to its weight. It follows Trump's recent denial that Bondi informed him of his name in the Epstein files, contradicting the administration's earlier statements. The Justice Department's July 7, 2025 memo, posted online, claimed that no client list or evidence warranting further investigation of third parties was found, and additional disclosures were unnecessary to protect victims. Critics argue this stance undermines the administration's transparency claims, especially given its willingness to release unrelated historical documents, such as those concerning Martin Luther King Jr. As the story unfolds, it raises critical questions about accountability, trust, and the delicate balance of power within Trump's political sphere.